inside joke. Last time I waited 30 minutes to start the recording, so I'm doing it on time. Hey, David, we'll just give it like one more minute.
Yeah,
if that's cool. Then I'll just I'll do a quick intro and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Cincinnati in the house. David, do you know Billy Reed? That brand, Billy Reed.
I don't.
It's like Chad Munich, Cincinnati, big fan. I mean, I describe it like Southern. How would you describe it? Like upscale Southern denim. It's cool. Like hillbilly rock and roll denim. It's a cool brand.
Yeah.
Mark and Joe, did you get to the Don Was podcast yet?
Yeah,
I did. I did. Yeah, I enjoyed that very much. Thank you for the thank you for the tip.
All right.
It's cool.
He had a great one with Betty LaVette about a month ago. It was just hilariously funny.
Nice. Nice. I shall dig back in.
Who's Betty? Who's Betty? I need to Google who Betty LaVette is, I guess. Should I know who Betty LaVette is?
Betty LaVette is Detroit, kind of old R&B, out of the same mold as Diana Ross, a little bit more edgy, a lot more edgy, a little bit younger.
Love it.
Been around the block a few times, and it's a great conversation. I don't know if it's out there right now, but I'll find it for you.
All right, I think we're good. I think we got a good quorum. We got a group from across, North America, and we have one woman, which is great for diversity. Thank you, Dr. Leah George, for joining. For some reason, my ability to recruit women to these things is failing, but I don't know.
Really?
It is interesting. I try, but I don't know. Maybe it's me. I won't take it personal. Anyways. Everybody knows David's bio. I'm thrilled that he's here. Absolute hero of mine, like marketing, serial entrepreneur, living in Wales on the West Coast, which I think is absolutely cool and fantastic. Huge fan of Adidas. He worked at Satoshi back in the day when in my mind, it was like the glory days of kind of advertising and all that good stuff. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. So wonderful to have him here. We're going to go for 45 minutes. David's going to chat for a bit. And as everybody knows, we'll just kind of open up to questions and have a good conversation, have fun, and we'll wrap up so we can catch the 3:00 kickoff for the Champions League and have plenty of time to watch some good football this afternoon or this evening.
That's fun.
And David may just talk about Liverpool and Mo Salah for 20 minutes, which would be fine by me. But
okay.
But David, the floor is yours. Thanks for coming on board.
Okay, man. So I mean, I guess the questions I have for myself each and every day is, if I want to do one thing well, it's actually many, many things well. And my youngest daughter, quite rightly, sort of asks in a very nice, polite way, is, "Dad, are you full of shit?" Because, which is, that's what the youngest should do. And because, we're doing many, many things. We've got the Do Lectures, we've got Hieatt Denim. At the time, we had a restaurant called the 25 Mile. And she said, "Well, which one are you doing well then? Because to do one thing well, you can only do the one thing well." And my answer was, and it was it wasn't me just being clever. It was, well, actually, the thing that I'm trying to do well is to try and create a space to help amazing people grow. And so my job is to grow people, in terms of confidence and abilities and capabilities and ambitions to go and do amazing things. And so that is the thing I'm trying to do well. And I'll tell you, and again, is because I run a company called Howie's, and it really did do something, and it caught a lot of people's attention. And we had Steve Case from actually Washington, D.C., wanting to invest $25 to $30 million into it. We had a company called PPR, who are now called Kering, and they were brand portfolio builders, and they own brands like Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, Puma, and they said they had made a short list of 2 brands in the world that they wanted to buy, and Howie's was 50% of them. So I'd done something really well, but actually we sold it to Timberland, and that didn't quite work out, and that's no slight on anyone, but it was kind of interesting that actually when I said, look, I didn't want to be owned, and I was going to leave the company I started, and actually more than half the people were delighted that I was leaving, and the other section were really gutted that I was leaving, and so, but I had to walk down the 27 steps of that building, knowing that at the time, knowing I would never go there again. But I did ask myself and going, hey, I didn't actually enjoy being a boss. I'll be honest. And I'm not a very good boss. And so this time round, in order to do one thing well, is I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to try and help people grow, not by being angry, not by being creating a culture which was a place that no one wanted to go in, but just being like a really amazing space for people to try and do their best work. And so that has been my daily challenge to myself, because I am ambitious. I want to be exactly where I want to be in terms of where I live. I want to live in the house that I am currently living. I'm happy to be exactly where I am, but I'm going, okay, but I am ambitious to be, to do something remarkable. And in West of Wales is a lot of my time is trying to get people to, we don't have a rich talent of people around us. I mean, there's farmers and the tourism industry, but there's no great marketeers, so my job is I have to go and find hungry people and grow them. And so that's my daily challenge to myself. And so I and it's really hard to say that actually, hey, 50% of the people in my previous company were delighted that I was leaving. But that was the honest truth. But this time I'm going, right, well, if I don't like being a boss, I'm not going to be one. And, like in the factory, they said, we want to do 4 days a week. We want to do our time, come in early, and stay till 5 and do our 39 hours in 4 days. And I went, hey, if that's what you want to do, you should do it. I have no clue how to run a factory. And so they said, well, you're the boss. I'm going, no, I'm not going to be your boss. I played that game before and I didn't win. But if you think that's the best way, and that's the best way for you to run both the business and your life, you should do that. So that's the thing that I'm sort of toying with each and every day, is how can I be a good coach? How can I help the people that I have? And I think that thing for me is that thing of going, I've got the best team I could possibly have. And my job is to go and grow them. So that's my question to myself. That's my rigor. That's my challenge to myself. And each and every day I'm going, right, okay, how do I grow these people? Because if I grow those people, I'm probably going to grow the business. So that's what I'm thinking about. I can talk about lots of other things, but I really love to chat to everybody about that, because I've worked in places where I didn't really like going to work. And there's nothing worse than tipping up each day, giving everything you can to something that you don't really care about. Nothing worse than that. And so, like my dad, he was in the Merchant Navy, and in the Merchant Navy, it was a culture of really like not treating people very well. Like, so you were just a commodity. And there was an American company called, I think, Kaiser Shipping. And he worked for them for 5 years, and they give him a little medal for doing 5 years. And so they did this thing. And if he was joining a ship somewhere, he'd have to go and fly through multiple time zones. But they would fly in him one day early and put him in a nice hotel. So when he arrived on the ship, he wasn't jet lagged. And he said, and he talked about, he must have worked for 20 odd companies. And the only company he really truly talked about was that company. And I went, that's the company I want to go and run one day. Where people will actually say, do you know what? I absolutely love that place. I grew a ton. And that's my challenge. I mean, like, and I know in some respects it's like a not ambitious challenge. You go, oh, like, it's not like, can we be a unicorn? I'm going, actually, can we be an amazing place to work? And can we go and do our best work there? That to me is both not ambitious and deeply ambitious.
Yeah, so I'll open up to the floor, but David, yeah, I think what's been interesting is the products, like say the Denim company or the Do lectures, to me, like they're very bespoke and limited and very supply and demand. Like your Do lecture only allows 100 people when easily, I'm sure 500 to 1,000 people would love to show up. I'm sure there's people that are telling you it should be like TED, with all that flash and sizzle. Obviously, Hieatt Denim versus say Wrangler or Levi's in the States, different business models. Like, how do you wrestle with the ambition versus the pressure to scale? And
so, go ahead. I mean, that's a good question. And so we make jeans for Rennie Rossetti, world's best chef. And so he has huge influence in that world. But he serves 45 people at dinner. And so this is my belief, is we can be one of the most influential denim brands in the world and still be pretty small, because influence doesn't just come from scale in terms of like the numbers. Like, yeah, when's the last time Wrangler changed the denim market? 140 years ago. Good job. What have we done since? Man, we haven't done much. And they came over and visited the factory, and I went, like, you know how to make jeans, Wrangler? I mean, why are you here? Why are you really here? They went, man, we don't know how to do direct to consumer. We've only just got a website. And I'm going, geez, like you've been going 140 years and you just got a website? Welcome to the internet. So but the Rennie Rossetti story is, in one rainy April, he had 20 customers. And then 2 years later, he'd won this award that said that he was the world's best chef, and he had 2,500 people like on the wait list. And so, and yet, like in common business practice is, oh, you can't have much influence in the world if you like just got 45 customers. And I'm going, I'm not sure if that's true. I think you can. And so that's my quest, is to try and scale influence, not just like the size of the business. I think there's a byproduct, and I know Greg will challenge me on this, but the byproduct is that you can, once you get influence, you will grow your business just because you're more influential. I mean, that's how it goes. So, but for me, if I go after the influence first, I think that's a good focus. I think we can win there.
Somebody have a question, or do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
So I'm really fascinated too. I mean, this is like personal stuff. Like, and then maybe this is me totally projecting on you, but like going back to your advertising days, it's Saatchi and Saatchi. I'm pronouncing that right? Or
Saatchi and Saatchi, yeah.
Yeah, Saatchi and Saatchi. And your skill as a copywriter, like if you guys aren't following David on LinkedIn, I mean, he writes, to me, some of the most compelling prose nearly every day, if not every day. Great writing, great communications. Can you just talk about, I just think the copywriting you do is really, in some ways, like your superpower that's led to these other activities. I don't know if you agree with that, but to me, just looking from the outside, your ability to write and communicate, get people's attention, and then for them to take action is really compelling. It's a superpower.
Yeah, I mean, I love, I mean, to go back to the original thing, right? So this is like a very quick story, but it is kind of interesting. And so, like, I was in love with Adidas and Nike, right? So, like, I would, at 13, I would go to like trade stands, I get all the catalogs, I put a tie on, I had to like lie that I was 18. And, you know, I tried to get a job at Nike, I tried to get a job at Adidas, nobody would employ me. Like, and I went to college, I got thrown out, and then I ended up with Saatchi & Saatchi, and I was there, I was super happy. It was an insane time to be there. It was probably the best time. But the Saatchi chairman, Louis Dreyfus, came in one day, said, I want to buy Adidas. He was already wearing jeans. He smoked a cigar, and he's going, oh, Kim Bessinger. I was there going, well, okay, that's kind of impressive, but now you've got my attention. And Charles and Morris they'd done an agreement with Louis Dreyfus, and they got greedy, and they all fell out. So I spent 6 months pitching for Adidas, and so we weren't going to get that business, and so then I took a £20,000 pay cut to go and work for the agency that did win the Adidas account. And he was a bit of a tyrant, and it was hard work, and it was pretty miserable. But all the ads that he rejected, I went and go and started a company that I sold for millions. So, but I did that all through words, and I do love words. And you know, like, this is somebody who literally, up until I met Claire, I only read football magazines. So my education was very short words about football. And so, and then I went straight to Tolstoy. I mean, straight from Shoot magazine to Tolstoy, and they're going, yeah, War and Peace, love it. I mean, I had to try and impress, this young lady. But I do love how the best brands in the world can communicate. And the way that the best brands do it is you can get into someone's heart. And actually, most brands can't do that because actually the writing is not good enough. So I do think everything I've ever done, I've done through words. And hard sweat and the ability to get on your knees and scrub and do whatever needs to be done. But I do love the power of words. And actually, most people don't, they think they can write, but they don't really learn how to write super well, and they don't practice their skill. The reason I write every day now, and I'm sort of like a promise to myself, is like going to the gym, but for words. I'm going to the gym. I'm not trying to write to impress anybody. I'm just going to the gym. And I would like to be really good at it one day. But that's the quest. Do you mean so? But why did Nike beat Adidas? Because Nike could communicate better. Nike had Dan Wieden and Adidas didn't. Dan Wieden could make people like feel something for a bunch of trainers. And he put emotion into it. The hardest journey for a brand to take you on is that, the 18 inches from your head to your heart. And through communication, they did something. So the best brands in the world make you feel something, not just buy something. And it's kind of incredible. So everything I've done is through words. And I, in retrospect, I really do wish I'd read more, from 10 to 18. But I haven't stopped since.
Does anybody want to go? I'll keep going. Nobody else has a question for David. They're all in all. It's a very shy group. I don't know what's happening. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Can let me ask you about one of our favorite brands, Patagonia, which is always held up as like, you know, the go-to brand for culture, doing good in the world. And do you think that's like a blessing and a curse for Patagonia, or do you think that's a superpower? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like every business case I feel like is like, oh, be like Patagonia, but it doesn't really mean anything.
It's a kind of interesting one. I mean, I'll give you some backstory and see if that helps in some way. A friend of mine, when we were doing Howie's, he said you should really go and check out this brand called Patagonia, because they're doing quite a lot like you. And I went and, you know, did some research on that. And I said to my mate, I said, man, they're not doing everything like us. They're doing everything better than us. And actually, so I was super impressed by them. They are great storytellers. But actually, you know, Yvonne and Melinda are using their company to do things that matter to them. And I think they're pretty extraordinary. And actually, so we went and did this website. And I was pretty good at getting like other people to try and win awards on my accounts. So I said to this design company, go and put a bunch of money into this website, and I literally won't tell you what to do. I'll be a really well-behaved client. And we did this website, and it was extraordinary. They spent £26,000 on our website, and we didn't put a penny into it. And actually, that really influenced Patagonia in terms of you know, how they went and did their website. Because actually, Howie's really influenced Patagonia, and I only really knew that, and I knew it when I visited them in Ojai. But I spoke to Vincent, who joined Patagonia and is their chief philosopher, great bloke, and he joined them, you know, as an intern, and he's been there 48 years. And he said to me, he said, we really, like, you know, what you did really was a kick up the bum for us in how we did things. And I wrote a piece on a journey of a carrot. It was literally one of the most boring pieces of copy I've ever written, and I've written quite a few. But it took the journey of a carrot. Get this is how boring this is. It's like, it literally takes a journey from Poland, middle of a field in Poland, a carrot, all the way to the supermarket in Cardigan. Every turn-in, every roundabout, it was depressingly boring, except it inspired Patagonia to do their footprint chronicles. And so I think, you know, your question is a blessing and curse, is whenever you go out there and tell the world that you are, this is important to you, there will always be people who disagree with you. But I think that's important. I mean, you know, there's no hate forums for vanilla ice cream. Man, I mean, there's no hate forums for Coldplay. I mean, which is also vanilla. I mean, it's like, as much as part of my family really love Coldplay, but I mean, the point is, once you have a point of view and you're going to express it, you have to accept that other one's going to have a counter view, and it's okay. But yeah, Patagonia are role models, and you know, but it's kind of like they have to push themselves, and they are. I mean, through the food company now, is they found the ability to actually put more carbon into the land than they take out, and that's extraordinary. And they've gone, right, actually, whereas with the clothing industry, it's, can we be less harmful? With the food industry, they can go actually make a positive impact. And so they're trying to use that thinking now in their clothing company. So, you know, with, you know, regen cotton and stuff. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, and it's probably both, and it's fine. I mean, but you have a voice. The worst thing about having a voice is not to use it and to play small.
Yeah, and I've always liked about your idea about having an enemy. Like, in some ways, you know, whatever that enemy is, it's good to be against something.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that, Mark, because I think
go ahead.
That idea of having a perspective that you talked about, David, What I find just amazing is how few companies do. So people will ask me all the time, who are your favorite brands? And there are so few that actually have a perspective that is not, we want to make as much money as possible, which really, there's no emotion in that. You're not giving anyone a reason to care. If anything, you're giving a reason for people to select on price, which is a race to the bottom. So it just fascinates me that it's that one change, adopting a perspective, a unique perspective and a point of view, can be transformative for a company, and that culture, everything. It relates to everything an organization does, and so few companies do it. That, you know, the same names always come up, right? Patagonia, REI, Apple, Nike.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's my youngest daughter. I mean, like she does. She's kind of like, as much as she loves me, she kind of kicks me in the shins, you know, a lot. And she said, so I have no clue why anyone would start a brand, a company now, unless it had sustainability at its heart. She had no understanding of why that person would start that company unless that was an important part. So, which kind of, and I know maybe she's of that mindset, but it does give me optimism that I wonder if the best companies are yet to start. And the reason they can't start is they've got to go and pass the exams. And I think I've been saying that for a while, and it hasn't been born to be true. But I hope that actually the next generation of founders kind of do a better job than actually this generation, because yeah, to have so few examples of like human-centered companies is extraordinary. Good question. But yeah, I wonder about that too.
Dave, I wonder if you have any good, any good B2B, you know, business to business kind of messaging or companies you like, or, you know, I wanted to ask you too, you've spoken with Facebook, and there's a rumor floating around that, you know, Facebook may change their name and they want to move on and create a new future. Just thoughts around that, B2B, kind of being human-centered as a B2B company.
I mean, it's, I mean, I haven't done a huge bunch of B2B, so, but the thing that I think about is, well, there's still a human being at the other end of your communication. So there's no like boring subjects. There's just boring humans writing in a boring way. And so, but I know I've sort of got that strong opinion on that, but I also believe that to be true. And so when you see, you know, Obama running a country and then dropping the mic, I'm going, man, like there's boring presidents. I mean, there's crazy presidents as well, but let's not go into that. But you know, like I think it's like it's your approach and your mindset that is boring. Is because you've literally said that this has to be boring because it's B2B. You go, it's like you say to B2B, and it's like you go into a funeral. You're actually speaking to a human being. Like, just man, they have a heart. Why don't you go there? Why don't you try and talk to the heart? And I know people buy on logic, but actually most of the time they don't. They just don't.
David, you know, I think you're one of the most amazing marketers. And one of the things you've done really well is create a community, maybe a few communities. You know, like for those of you who don't know, I'm one of his biggest customers. I had to cut myself off to be good to the planet, you know, to not buy Korean jeans.
Come back, man. Always forgive me.
But can you generalize from what you've done? Can you give us tips on how to create, you know, raving fan, almost religious ardor community between Do and Hieatt? I've told you, it's almost like a secular religion or something. What do you do to build communities? What does one do?
Well, I mean, in terms of building a community, there has to be something at the center of the community that's important to them. And so I mean, as soon as you mention purpose now, people will go, they switch off. But like, people need meaning, and you know, for us, you know, we've always tried to, with the Do lectures, we wanted to give away the information for free without any, you know, ties to sponsorship and advertising. That was actually quite a hard 5 years. I mean, so, you know, the first 10 years of the Do lectures, I never paid myself. And so that's a hard schlep, but I just wanted it to go, well, I didn't want it to be tied to a big corporation. And actually, even though that's like not, you know, like for everybody's ears, is like people could sense that there was something else going on. And I think, you know, that people gather around something that is important to them. And if you look at Rafa, you know, the cycling brand, I mean, he came down to our house before he started. He didn't even have a name for the company. And he said, look, I'm just going to be for, you know, these road cyclists. I have no care, no desire to do anything other than serve this community. And actually, if you look at Rafa, what they did, they created a club. And actually, if you look at Harley Davidson, what did they do? Created a club. And actually, like, the club was kind of interesting for Rafa because they had about 200 people, like, members in the first years. And then all of a sudden, you know, people go, oh, this company got sold for $140 million and the Walton family bought it. But he created an amazing community. They would go bike riding together. And like today, you know, we had somebody who came to, we have, in the early days, we had open days and we'd tell people what we're going to do for the next year. And this guy like worked for Apple and he flew over and came to the open day, which lasted 2 hours, and he bought a pair of jeans today. And so you have to gather people, but you have to gather them around your purpose. And so, you know, what do you want to change? Like, yes, we want to get 400 people their jobs back, but the desire is, can we create the lowest impact pair of jeans on the planet? I mean, that's a hard thing to do. You know, will it take us a bunch of time to get there? Yeah, but is that, you know, is that something we can gather around? And the important thing is, you have to feel it first. Like Simon, when he came down and, you know, talked about Rafa, he was a nut on biking. I thought I was crazy into it. He was on another level. I'm going, man. So unless you feel it, you can't transfer the energy to another human being. Everything is a transfer of energy. You know, when you go into those restaurants and, you know, the person who's serving you can't bear to look away from their Instagram feed, like, that's energy that's working in the opposite way, right? Because you go, like, obviously no one gives a shit about this restaurant. Like, but, you know, when you go to some restaurants in New York and you go, oh my God, well, you don't even know that, you know, like, was it Daniel Mayer? Like, you don't even have to know who he is. When you walk into his restaurant, you can feel the energy. And so I think, you know, it's gathering is about energy. You go, and is that important to them? It has to be important to you too.
Dave, do you ever think there's like there's just a little bit of magic there that you can be scientific about it, you can say you build around, but sometimes there's just a brand is a point of time and space that just really hits, and like kind of following the blueprint of, say, Patagonia, even if you did exactly the same, you don't have the same people, you're not in the same town.
No. Oh no, completely. And like a rock band, right? I mean, we had, you know, Colin come down from Rayhead and, you know, for the Do, and they all went to college together. I mean, like, you go, how lucky is that? Two of them are brothers. You go, I mean, like the lottery of genes. I mean, not genes as in my genes, but the gene. It's like, so you've got to be lucky. You got to be in the right place with the right people, with the right hunger, and the right time in music. And you go, hey, let's go and change music. Fine, okay. So there is magic, yes, and that's kind of the component part where you have to let the universe decide that one, and that's okay.
David, I've heard you say before that if you look in the same place as everyone else, you'll end up with the same ideas and saying the same things as everyone else, which is something that has definitely made me think. So where are you looking at the moment? Who or what was your attention?
I sort of when we were raising money for Hieatt, I told people we only wanted 10 shareholders, and I told them they wouldn't get any money, and I've kept my word. And we then got this guy from Silicon Valley going, I just want to invest. And I go, oh, we've got enough investors. He said, but I just love the story. I literally just want to be part of it. I just want to be there with you. And he was so into denim. Like, he's gone like, I just love Japanese denim. I just love your story. You have the best story. And you have the best story in the denim world. Hello. So in 2012, he emailed me and said, look, Dave, can you just accept Bitcoin on your website? I'm going, and I forgot, and I didn't do anything, and I didn't actually know what Bitcoin was, so I'm going, that sounds hard, but let's not do that. And then early 2013, he emailed again. Bear in mind that in 10 years, he's only emailed 3 times, so I'm going, maybe I should do something. So on Shopify, I just went to Shopify and pressed a button which allowed Bitcoin, and actually Shopify were quite into it at the time, and we had good relationships with them. So to answer your question is, I do believe if you go and read all the books that everyone else is reading, and I think if you go to the same conferences that everyone else is going to, you kind of just going to be a little bit better than them or a little bit worse, but you're not going to be actually that different to them. And so the answer to your question was, I fell into this world of cryptocurrency, and not just about Bitcoin and making money, but I actually loved all the business models. There's so many new business models. I literally have learned so much, and it's completely irreverent. They don't care. They're making music with code. They are the new songwriters, and they're creating these business models that you've never heard of, but how money works. And to give you an example, I'm not a big on gaming. I've never really done games apart from Space Invaders, which was pretty cool back then. But now there's a game which has gone massive, and for 2 years no one knew what it was doing. Nobody cared about it, but they came up with a new business model, and that was play to earn. And this game has, you've heard of Bitcoin and you've heard of Ethereum probably. Like, this thing is 3rd or 4th in terms of the number of, like, how much money it's making, because it just came up with a new business model. And decentralized finance is literally changing. The reason the banks don't like it is they're going to cut out the middleman, and the banks are the middleman. And so it's like the middlemen are going to have a hard time, because these coders, these new songwriters, are creating stuff with, just like the Beatles did, and just went, hey, we're going to go and change music. These people are changing pretty much every industry that you can think about. And so that's really been quite fascinating. And so I've like go, well, and I'm really good at observing business models and going, like, well, how can I use that to my company? So, and if, you know, a while back, I was asked to do a brand book for, you know, James Dyson. And at the time, I'm going like, man, that's a stupid idea. You've already got a £100 million business. Why do you want a brand book? Nobody reads them. But they're kind of keen that I went and did it for them. And I really just want to meet him, because anybody who spends 5,126 days in a shed iterating has got to be bonkers and brilliant. And I'm going, let's go and meet him. But essentially what he saw was, in a timber yard, was a centrifugal device that extracted dust, but it was on a massive scale. And so he took it and shrunk it and spent 5 years or whatever it was doing it. And so he didn't invent that device, but he made it work in a very small space. So I think we can be really good at observing different things. And, you know, like, you know, Blake, who did, you know, Tom's shoes, I mean, like, gifting's been around for centuries, right? But where he took it was, well, I'll go and do that and put it into my business model. I do love, and it's very rare that you'll find a new business model. You know, gaming, play to earn is a new business model. You know, gifting for Tom's shoes was a new business model. So I think you've got to go to like and bear in mind, cryptocurrency is the Wild West. I mean, it's literally bonkers. But you don't have to go and invest there, but you can invest time there to learn from some really maverick songwriters, but they're writing with code. So yeah, I've been learning a bunch from there. But I think, you know, if you've got to think about your information diet, is, you know, the most creative entrepreneurs are the ones who read fiction. And not self-help books. I mean, like, you know, my wife Claire, she's never read a business book in her life. She's way better at running a business than I am, and she's much more creative. And so, you know, the thing of like, and I'm got to get better at this in terms of my, you know, my diet of information is fiction is actually much more important than I thought. And it's actually quite fun. But go and learn from like biographies from people not in your industry. I mean, like, I think you know, like if you think about Velcro, it's got like, you know, hooks and, you know, clasps and all those millions of connections that need to happen together. I mean, and so what you're trying to do is you're trying to go to different arenas and find, you want to find a one from that industry, a one from that industry, and I'll give you 1 + 1 = 3. And so, but if you do go looking where everybody else is, you know, looking, it's tough. I think then you're just going to be a little bit better than the other people.
I'm interested to go back to your first point around not being a boss, not wanting to be a boss. And I'm quite intrigued at that one. So, I mean, I can see how you can show leadership and not be a boss. And in my own experience, I think it works when I've got high quality people around me.
Yeah.
I can just go where, sort of going over the top and they just follow. It's the junior people who sort of straight out of university who need molding, who need direction, who are looking for that sort of, you know, kind of, you know, a bit of boss actually.
Well, I mean, you raise a good point. Like, I mean, I have not been capable of motivating anyone, and like not one person ever. And so, so what I have to find is hunger. If I find hunger, then I can work on the rest. But if there's no hunger, like, and I mean like ravenous hunger, I can't work with that. Entitlement, can't work with that. It's ridiculous. And so, but capabilities, skills can be learned, but I can't teach them like hunger. I've never taught them that. You can't teach someone integrity and do the right thing. You'll never ever teach anyone that. So you got to hire people with hunger, integrity, and a love of what you're doing. I mean, it needs to be important to them. So, but then the rest is just like going, hey, yeah, we can learn this. We can have some fun doing this. And by the way, it's going to be horribly messy because you are absolutely, pardon the swear word, but you are going to fuck up at some stage. And you go, and by the way, you're not that interesting to me unless you do. And then you just go, and then when they can, it's pretty interesting. The hard thing is like when people play too safe, and you go, come on, you've got to be more dangerous here. And that's there's two tugs, right? So pulling them back and going, look, hey, don't, you need to be more dangerous in your thinking here. And right now, if I'm being honest, right now I've got to try and get them to be more dangerous. It's like, come on, what do you mean we can't do that? So, but as long as you got hunger, you can do all sorts. If you can have it, pretty tough. It's a hard game. But it is, the hiring is important because otherwise, man, miserable. Pretty miserable. And, we don't always get it right, but kind of, we're getting pretty good at it now.
I do love your quote of hire slowly, fire quickly.
Yeah. And internships, as long as they're fully paid and you're not taking the piss, I mean, like you literally find out, like, do they have the hunger? And then you just go, wow. I mean, we hired Hugh, who went and did paint the jackets, and but he was, with the do lectures, we do a given chair, and he made a chair and handmade this chair with the do symbol. And I literally saw that and I said, who made that chair? I went, oh, this guy called Hugh. I'm going, go and get me Hugh. I want to have a chat with him. And I convinced him, like he had this job and he was overpaid. I'm going, I want to hire you and I'm going to pay you a lot less. And he's going, well, how's that work? And I said, well, right now you're super young. And guess what? You're doing a boring job. And he's going, it's not boring. I'm going, okay, how much are you learning? And I said, well, you're going to learn a ton of stuff, but I'm going to pay you less. And then when you leave, you'll go and either earn or do something really interesting. And they went and did something interesting. So, but he did the chair. It was a clue. I'm going, hire him or her, whoever, I'm just going, it showed me the hunger. I mean, like when I was trying to get a job at Saatchi's, there was 150 interviews. I was depressed. I was living in a town called London. Like I was literally from this small village, and I'm going, oh my God. But I went down to the Financial Times newspaper. I said, can I have some of your newsprint, but without any news on it? They went, what are you going to do? I'll be doing a little project. Okay, mate. Literally went down the door, went and got my dole money, 23 quid or whatever it was, spent it all on Letraset. And I hand typed this guy's ad. I knew it was going to be in the Financial Times the next day. I went into the reception. I said, I've got a very urgent package for Jeff Stark, and it's got to be hand delivered by me. Okay. And so they let me go up into the creative department. No one else was there. I found his Financial Times that he was going to find, he was going to read that day. I had a scalpel knife. I took his ad out and replaced it with mine. Then I snuck back out. And then at 11 o'clock, I phoned up his secretary and said, hey, did Jeff get his ad? And she went, oh, it's you. You need to come in. I'm going, yeah, okay. And so that was, I didn't want to eat beans on toast anymore. I was bored with it. I'd done it for a year and a half. It's nutritious and it's kind of nice and it's simple, but after a while, yeah, there's other food out there.
Well, David, I don't want to hold you up. We're after, unless you're open for like one more question.
Yeah.
And we can wrap up. Does anybody have another question?
Yeah, one question.
Go ahead.
David, I guess this relates to copywriting, but I suppose the creation of anything you're putting out there in the world. I think obviously biggest enemy yourself. Getting what advice do you have to just shipping when you feel something's not ready or not I guess perfectionism, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good question, and it's one that's probably asked, like in terms of writing, is the one that people ask the most, because it's that thing of, oh, how do I find my voice? You're going, well, you have to be loose. I mean, you have to not care what other people think. Otherwise, you write. When you're sort of riding a bike and you're clasping onto the handlebars too tightly, and then you get a speed wobble because you're so rigid, and you have to say to yourself, I am going to get better, but I'm only actually going to get better by writing more. And the Arctic Monkeys, we make jeans for them, and they were so obsessed by being the coolest band in the UK, and then they went and toured in America, and they supported a band called, I think it's Black Keys, and they were like the gnarliest, coolest band ever. And they kind of realized it was a stupid mission to be the coolest, because they definitely weren't going to be the coolest. And then, so they went back and actually wrote some music, and wrote the music they really cared about. And actually, they described it as like them being loose, said like we cared the most, and at the same time, we cared the least. And you've got to try, in terms of writing, is to do something you care about it, but you've also got to go and let other people be in judgment of it. And so I think that's, and you'll get better just by doing more, and you'll get more relaxed by doing more. And I go to the gym, but my gym is words, so you have to work out. Hope that was of help anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was saying, you got to go to Hamburg, like when the Beatles, went to Hamburg to work out their act, and you got to play in some dingy places and play 4 or 5 shows a night and just grind it out and do the reps. There's no way around it.
No, and that's where the Beatles got really, really good. They were doing their learning was 3 times as much as anyone else. And I'm just going, you just got to write a bunch of stuff, and people go, oh, you're a really good writer, but it might take them 10 years to say that. Do you mean? I mean, Claire knows, I'm not a good writer. She'll go, your grammar's terrible. I'm going, yeah. She's going, your spelling's terrible. The way you write, she's in despair when she's has to go and read stuff. She's going, man. But I'm living in hope that one day she'll go, actually, that was pretty good. Haven't had that yet. It's just
maybe that's one of the keys to marriage: poor grammar and poor spelling. Well, David, thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic. Is it cool if I share your email address?
Yeah.
With the crew here. Yeah, perfect.
But I appreciate
you're the man, dude.
I appreciate everyone tipping up. I mean, it's a busy world. So.
Well, we appreciate you making the time, and we appreciate you all the work you're doing, and the courses, and the books, and the jeans, and Wales every day, man. I get a little snapshot of Wales, which is great. Which also has the coolest flag in the world, which I think we can all agree on.
Yeah. It is good flag.
without a doubt.
We did the flags.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Have a good afternoon, good evening. See you soon. Thanks. Ciao.
Take care.